Hey, it's SNC here. Sorry for the huge delay. I had a lot of stuff to do today, IRL, and it kept and more stuff kept coming up, so there was a really big delay. Sorry about that, but I'm here with the preseason, which usually there would be preseason free agency, but there's not really anything in free agency left this year, so I'm not going to show that, but I'll go through the cap tables after the rosters were filled out and the coaches and the available coaching pool. So without further ado, let's start with the Sixers. This team, they lost some depth. I mean, Fred Brown was a big pickup, and their main core is still here, and did get Brad Davis and Ernie Grunfeld and Tom Lagarde in the draft, which are some pretty interesting prospects, and so I think they'll still be good this year. Um, the Bucks, lost Lacey, and uh, I've thought Lacey was I said Lacey was one of the most underrated players in the league. Uh, and yeah, I think he'll be a big loss, but I think they'll still be pretty good since they did bring in Chenier and Bridgman. Bulls are weird. I don't think they should have brought in Frazier, Chamberlain, and Busher. That's 60 million this year, devoted to three pretty old players with a team that's probably nowhere near ready to make the playoffs, at least in my opinion. So, I mean, we'll see how good they are this year, but I think they'll be pretty, I don't think they'll be horrendous, but I don't think they'll be good enough to, really be anything in the playoffs. Cavs, on the other hand, are probably the best team in the league. Um, yeah, they're really, really good, man. Celtics, they're pretty bad. Robert Reed is probably the most interesting piece. He's their rookie. Um, Scott Wedman, he's still young-ish, and he's solid. And then Matt Calvin's obviously their best player, but they're probably going to trade him because he's not really that good. The Braves, they're still tanking, I think. But I mean, they have some solid pieces at the top. Alvin Adams is really, really good. Maxwell was a solid pickup in the draft. Gus Gerard's a solid piece. Yeah, so we'll see how bad they are this year. I'd still expect them to be towards the bottom, but I don't think they're like the worst team in the league. Clippers, on the other hand, I think they had a really underrated offseason. Holland's developing a lot was huge for them, but trading for Phil Smith, I like that a lot. I think he's going to be a really big piece for them, and I think they're a really good team. The Hawks are probably the worst team in the league. They have like two guys that are playable, and I'm not even sure if Eric Money's really that playable. But Eddie Johnson, he was, I think, a steal in the draft. So we'll see how he does with the keys to the offense already as a rookie. He pretty mid. I saw that they were trying to trade George McGinnis, so I mean, we'll see how that goes. They have some young pieces though, so they're definitely not in like the worst situation in the league, but I think they definitely need to trade McGinnis because he's making them slightly too good to really, really tank. Hornets, I think they'll be much better this year. They were pretty disappointing last year because English wasn't all that great, and he was getting a really big part of the touches. Point guard still isn't great for them, but I mean, Mike Bratz, they picked him in the lottery. I don't know how ready he'll be as a rookie, but the rest of the team got a lot better, so especially English. So we'll see how that goes. Um, the Jazz, they made the playoffs last year. For the most part, they kept their guys, so I expect them to probably be around the play-in again. James Edwards was a solid pickup in the draft. The Kings, uh, they had a pretty big shakeup. They brought in Wilkes and Johnny Davis, and they lost Issel and Don Buse, and they brought in a lot of people in free agency too. So I think they got better, and they were just in the finals last year, so they're definitely a threat to win it all. The Knicks, they lost Dandridge in free agency, but they were able to bring in Clifford Ray and Curtis Perry via trade, so those were two pretty big pickups, and I expect them to be around the same level, even though they lost Dandridge. Oh wait, yeah, no trade exceptions, so I'll just get rid of that. The Lakers, this team is going to be very interesting. Obviously their duo is probably like clearly the best duo in the league. David Cowens, or Dave Cowens and David Thompson were the were probably both top five players last year. And Marquez Johnson in the draft was a really good pickup, but outside of that, it's pretty terrible. So we'll see how much their big three can carry them. The Magic, they were just a pretty damn good team last year. They weren't like a contender or anything, but they were a really solid regular season team. And they brought in a lot of like lower tier players in free agency. So we'll see if any of those guys can step up. They're an interesting team. I don't know how they'll do this year, but I think they're probably still a playoff lock. The Mavericks, they traded away their last really good player in Clifford Ray. They're probably going to be pretty bad this year. Um, Toby Knight, who's their pick at I think 16, is going to get a ton of opportunity this year. So we'll see how he does. The Nets didn't really make any moves, but JoJo White regressed a lot, so that's going to be pretty bad for them. Lonnie Shelton did develop a bit, but from what I've heard, I think they're going to sell, so I wouldn't expect them to be as good this year. Denver, um, yeah, Parrish got a lot better. Roby Free was a big time pickup in trade. And via trade, Havlicek did regress a lot, and I think Calvin Murphy regressed a bit, but the fact that Murphy isn't going to be their starting point guard, and they have like a legit star at point guard, and that Parrish is way better, I think they're going to be better, and they're going to be really good this year. The Pacers, they got Otis Birdsong in the draft, and they retained Pierluigi Maserati. Moses Malone's up to a 91, which I didn't see a lot of people talking about. So maybe this team could be a play-in team because Moses is really, really good, and Birdsong, with how many touches he's going to get, could be pretty good as a rookie. The Grizzlies, they took Walter Davis, top five, and Daryl Dawkins progressed a bit, but outside of those two, there's not really much on this roster at all. So they should be pretty bad, and those two guys should get a lot of touches and opportunity this year. The Pistons, they got rid of Walt Frazier and they brought in a ton of bigs. They kept Truck Robinson, they traded for Palomar, and they signed Mike Bantam. I don't know who's going to play point guard for this team. A small forward, like I, I I think maybe Mike Bantam is their small forward. Yeah, it looks like he can play small forward. So they're going to be a pretty big team this year, but that point guard situation is just really weird. The Huskies, they made a huge trade for Bernard King, giving up six picks and Scott May. Uh, and they traded for Campy Russell too, so they should be pretty good this year. I think they're probably a playoff team, especially when you consider Progs too. And we'll see how that King gamble works out. The Rockets, yeah, they traded away Worldby Free and Jamal Wilkes. They got a boatload of picks, and they're going to tank this year, which I think that was a pretty good decision by Trey there. Uh, Yeah, Free and Wilkes were pretty good young players, but they were both Wilkes got paid and Free was about to get paid, and they weren't leading the team to like a championship or anything. And since they were going to be making a lot of money, I think it made sense to reset and try and go for better players. The Spurs, they're a very interesting team. They traded away their best player, but they also made a ton of signings in free agency, which is very interesting. Norm Nixon is one of the most hyped up rookies, so we'll see how he does. Very interesting situation and roster there in San Antonio. The Suns, Issa was a pretty big pickup for them. Um, Ricky Green in the draft. Yeah, they should be a lot better this year. Still not too deep, but I mean they have pretty strong top three, and they have a couple of solid guards here in Ricky Green and Henry Bibby. So, I mean, maybe they'll make the playoffs in the West. The Sonics, yeah, Bill Russell retired from playing. He's still coaching them, and they did have some slight regression, but not. I don't know if they'll be like significantly worse or significantly better. Yeah, losing Bill sucks a bit, but like I don't think he was like a all-star or anything, so I think they'll still be pretty good. The Timberwolves made a big trade for Rick Barry. Um, yeah, they should. They signed Steve Mix and where is he? Bob Love. So those were two pretty interesting signings. Bruce Parkinson was another signing for them. I think they'll be really good this year. They have like kind of a big three there in Minnesota. Portland, yeah, they were the one seed last year in the West, almost won 60 games. Now they signed Don Buse and Lou Hudson, and they developed some of their young guys a bit more. I think they'll be really, really good once again. Really good offseason over there in Portland. The Warriors, they drafted Jack Sigma top two, and Mike Flynn developed a bit, but they lost Steve Mix, they lost Happy Hairston. They were horrible last year, and expect them to be horrible again this year. Yeah, the Warriors. They don't have like any vets on the whole roster, and very interesting team there in Golden State. Probably going to be horrendous. Uh, the Bullets, another contender for worst team in the league. They had some pretty solid young players, but they traded all of them away. Classy didn't feel like any of them were franchise level players. So we'll see how that goes for them. Interesting decision, and it might play out. It might work out for them if they get a top pick this year. And yeah, that was the last teams. Just quickly go through the coaches. Uh, I think most of the head coaches are the same. Dick Barnett's a new coach for the Knicks. And but the coaching pool actually got uh, a lot deeper. There's a lot of legends, uh, like former NBA legends coming back as coaches. So we'll check that out in a second here. And Dick Moda's last coach there. And so now for the coaching pool, Bill Sharman, coach of the 72 Lakers that won 69 games. He's coming back to coach again. Casey Jones, Celtics legend, is coming to coach. Oscar Robertson, one of the greatest players of all time, is starting his coaching career now. Sam Jones, another Celtics legend, is also going to be a coach. John McLaughlin, I know he has Jason Kidd's portrait, but don't worry about that. Uh, Former Buck, he's coming to coach. Bob Pettit, another all-time great, who's going to start his coaching career here. Dolph Schayes is going to coach. Ricky Guillen, or Richie, I think it's Guillen, is going to coach. Hall Greer. Wayne Embry, Willis Reed. He doesn't have the Knicks job anymore, and actually he's playing for the Bullets. So I think the rule is going to be if you want Willis Reed to be your coach, you have to trade for Willis Reed as a player. Bailey Howell, Bob Nedolicki. I think he was playing for the Pacers in the ABA. Don Ole, um, pretty sure he played for like the Bullets. And then Tom Sanders is the last coach we brought in. He was a really good defender for the Celtics in the 60s. So that's it for the preseason video. DM me if you want to see like specific grades for any of the players, because I know I didn't show those in this video, and also if you want to change your coach because coaches matter a lot because of the requirements for all the different systems. So yeah, that's it. Goodbye.